Looks like Epcot has a character dining experience returning. Yeah, so if you weren't aware, Walt Disney World has had very limited options in terms of how character dining is going to be rolled out upon the Walt Disney World phased reopening process. As of right now, this is only the second option that they have added to the list, the first being at Topolino's Terrace at a resort hotel outside of the theme parks. And as the theme parks set to reopen on July the 11th and then July 15th in a phased reopening process, this experience here, the Garden Grill restaurant inside of Epcot and the Land Pavilion, the rotating restaurant on the second floor of the Land Pavilion, well, it's set to reopen with a modified character dining experience. Perhaps you've heard us talk in prior broadcasts about what the modifications are like in other parks. So we spoke a little bit about what things look like in Hong Kong Disneyland as well as Shanghai, and how they've sort of done a drive-by scenario when it comes to those characters. And you're no longer going to be able to necessarily meet characters right up front. You're no longer going to be able to hug those characters and have them come right up to your table and engage with them. Instead, it sounds like more of a ceremonial moment or two where they are going to parade through the restaurant, do a couple of things at a distance, and then move on. Katrina, we've talked about this before a little bit, and it's interesting to see that Garden Grill has been brought online. Garden Grill, it being sort of a two-tiered restaurant, right? You can sit on one level or the other, and it rotates. As great as it is that additional character dining is being brought online here, it doesn't seem as though there's a whole lot of space in this restaurant to be at a distance as a character. Things are pretty close together in terms of how it's stacked. How do you imagine they're going to be doing this at Garden Grill?
I don't know. I've personally never eaten at Garden Grill before, but we've only gone by when we do Living with the Land, which is great. It's a great ride.
Everybody loves it.
It's great.
I love Living with the Land.
But I've seen like the characters go by, and I can see them maybe trying to at least keep a small distance. I've heard nothing bad about the new Topolino Terrace, dining situation with the character breakfast. So I know that they're doing like a pretty good job keeping a distance, and Topolino is completely different size in the restaurant compared to Garden Grill. But I know that Disney's kind of desperate to get a character dining in a park because, again, they really, really need it. I don't think a lot of people are going to go to Topolino Terrace to go pay a certain amount for for that breakfast and not have like Goofy and Chip and Dale and all that stuff to go into the park or to go and do that kind of dining situation. So I can see them trying to push Garden Grill and for them to space guests out and making sure that the characters kind of stay on the outer rim as far as possible away from the guests. I mean, they're gonna have to maybe not linger for a long time, but just come by, stand for a little bit, and then just keep moving. So I think they're just gonna try to keep it rotating as fast as possible. I don't really know how they're gonna situate the characters as far as pretty much up against the glass area where the walkway is. That's
entirely likely. Well, let's ask Garrett. He's somebody that worked in entertainment at Walt Disney World. He could probably answer this better than anybody. How do you imagine they're going to set up a distanced character dining experience at Garden Grill of all places?
2 words, very creatively. But so, Wade, you and I have both worked in entertainment dining before. It's completely different than any other experience. Luckily, with the social distancing, you'll have a lot more room. But the way I imagine it is that restaurant is just so tightly packed. It is from the table to say the walkway. It's only maybe 3 or 4 feet, 5 max. So I imagine the character's going to hug the wall, and then the family's going to take a selfie. That's the closest thing I can see this thing going. And I feel bad for the performers just because walking around and around and around and around, it's going to be nauseating. It's going to be exhausting. And what part of the character experience is getting to experience the characters. In this situation, you're not experiencing the characters. You are just witnessing them. You don't get any real interaction. You can wave at them. I think a better idea would be maybe when you enter the restaurant, you can take a socially distanced picture where you're in front and they're in the background or something. But I think it's going to be kind of awkward, but leave it to Walt Disney World Entertainment to come up with something creative. But Like Chip and Dale, thank goodness all the characters are not together. Like they each come one at a time. So there'll be opportunities, but it will not be the same experience that many people are accustomed to. I think it's just going to be a wave, an air high five, maybe a still little dance, or if one of the characters sees like, oh, birthday, you'll be like, oh, happy birthday, or something like that. But it will not be this touching moment where in the picture that we showed for the story with the little girl touching Dale or Chip's nose, that's not happening at all. No touching the characters at all. But it will be an interesting experience. I'm looking forward to see how it turns out because like characters, they thrive on creativity. And when you put an obstacle in front of them, their goal is to, how do we get around this? How can we make this work? So I'm looking forward to seeing videos and interactions of how they make this work. But no doubt there's going to be a lot of selfies going on. A lot of selfies.
A lot of selfies indeed. Yeah, no touchy. It
How are
sounds
they
like
going to
it's
do autographs?
Yeah.
That's like my heart aches for like the little kids that just are so excited to get like Chip and Dale's autograph, and now you can't even do that anymore, like an air autograph.
I think what we'll see is sort of what we see in certain environments that are very, or I guess had been, very high capacity character meet and greets where they are starting to do this more and more, where you saw a lot of those characters forego the autograph giving, and instead a host or somebody that was with that character would walk the line and hand out pre-autographed items. Whether it be a card, whether it be some sort of item that would just have their signature on it, they would be passing that out as they went. Tyler, I can kind of see a situation here because of the way Garden Grill is stacked, where they have a ring of tables on the bottom and a ring of tables above that. Perhaps that top ring doesn't get filled with anybody dining, and that bottom ring, is spaced out and has people dining, and they just bring those characters out on that top ring and have them waving at a distance. You already have the barriers there. I just can't imagine kids in this environment being able to see these characters. You're already paying the premium, being able to see these characters and not being able to have any sort of real access to them. You're just at a distance.
Yeah, it seems like it's going to be real weird. And I know when we first talked about character dining a few episodes ago, I don't know, a month ago or so, I just thought to myself, you said the premium price, I would never want to spend that much money on food that frankly I've heard is not the greatest.
Depending on the restaurant.
Well, I'm talking about Garden Grill specifically.
Sure,
I've heard that I've never eaten there, like Katrina said, and one of the reasons we never eaten there is because we haven't really heard good things about it.
Yeah.
I can't imagine paying that premium price for that character experience and then not really getting it. Like Garrett said, it's going to be a lot of like faraway characters, and they're going to wave at you, and I could go anywhere in the park and wave at Mickey Mouse, and he'll probably wave back at me. Like I don't need to pay extra
Even
money
the
for it,
parade.
Yeah, the parade. Yeah, well, there's not going to be a parade,
know.
but yeah. So I just don't know how this makes money for them. I mean, I know how it makes money for them, but I just don't know if it's going to be like a popular thing. I guess I'm really curious to just see a video or something that somebody takes while they're there because. I think that's probably a good idea. What you said, Wade, of them kind of splitting up the restaurant and not having anybody on the top, but it seems like it's going to be really hard logistically.
Yeah, we will see. I know that that upcharge, it's a big deal for a lot of families because it's super expensive if you, add that up by 4 or 5 people in your family and you go to a character dining experience, you sort of expect a lot out of it because you're paying a lot. And that's definitely something that I know has always been in Disney's minds is, how do we make sure that people walk away feeling overly satisfied about a character dining experience because they know it's costly. They know you have big expectations when you come into it. So to even reopen in a phased capacity these character dining experiences, I think it's brave to reopen character dining and definitely to try and give people some options here. I just don't know if it's going to be worth it to be able to see characters at a distance, but we will reserve our judgment until we see it for sure. We just are going based off of what we've already seen in place in Hong Kong and in Shanghai, and it just looks like just a drive-by. Those characters are at a distance, they're waving and off they go. We have seen it at Topolino's Terrace, where it's been much the same thing. So, they're waving at a distance, they are taking those selfies at a distance. So, I mean, you get them in the shot, I suppose that's good, but you don't really get that one-on-one interaction like you would originally. So, Great to have character dining back in some capacity. I'll say I'm thrilled to have it, period. But at the same time, I understand that it's very taxing when it comes to the price. So we will take a look at what the Garden Grill looks like very soon as Epcot officially reopens.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome.